Throughout the course of the year, have you noticed there have been some significant absences? Players who were once considered absolute studs, but all of a sudden vanished and their impact became non-existent. These guys have made tremendous contributions on their respective teams, but what exactly happened to cause them to become completely irrelevant in the blink of an eye? Once again, it's that time of year, ladies and gents. We're taking a look at some more NBA studs who vanished, but in a way that you would not expect, so it's been quite strange.
And I think his attitude has been call it hit or miss.
What do we witness?
Kristaps Porzingis. If anyone watched the Knicks and Celtics series, you would have noticed the obvious absence of such an important player. Sure, he still played over 20 minutes a game in the playoffs and nearly 30 per game in the regular season, but something seemed off. He was nowhere near as effective as he once was, and it seemed like he got tired so quickly for some reason. Over the year, he's missed about half the season with what the Celtics described as an upper respiratory infection, which was then upgraded to, or I don't know if it's an upgrade, but they started calling it a mystery illness, suggesting that even the Celtics medical staff don't know what's going on with him. Porzingis did contract COVID a while ago, and some have speculated he's still dealing with the ramifications of COVID. The post-COVID effects, things like headaches, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, all of which are clearly a detriment when you're playing a high-intensity sport. For him, it's been a struggle, and as the Knicks knocked out the Celtics in the second round, Porzingis opened up and admitted, "It kills me inside. I always tried to downplay it in my own mind, like, I'm good. I've had ups and downs up until this point and just now had a big crash. My energy, my everything hasn't been good. My system is not working the way it should be." On one hand, coming into the playoffs, the Celtics still had championship aspirations, even with a crippled Porzingis. Remember, when they won the championship, Porzingis also missed the majority of the playoffs, and honestly, they were so good they didn't need him.
We did it. We did it!
This time, however, during the series against the Knicks, they needed another big man to match up with them. They couldn't just rely on a near 40-year-old Al Horford. When Porzingis tried to play, in 4 of the 6 games, he couldn't even crack 14 minutes. And you could tell whenever the camera zooms in to the bench, he's desperately gasping for air, like he just ran a marathon or something. In an Eastern Conference that's much stronger than before, with more heavy hitters, the Celtics need him to recover if they want to win again. It doesn't help that he eats up $30 million in cap space, but at least his contract expires in 2026. Until then, the Celtics have a tough decision to make. And apparently, the post-COVID effects could last months and maybe even years. The Celtics may be championship contenders with or without Porzingis, but when he's at full health, he certainly gives them a better chance to win. Jalen Green. The jury is still out on Jalen Green. We're not sure what to expect from him. He has the tendencies, the playstyle, and the body language of a future superstar. I mean, he was the leading scorer on the number 2 seed in the West, after all, along with the highest usage rate on the team. But are the Rockets good because of Jalen Green, or in spite of Jalen Green? Out of all players who took at least 17 shots a game, Green recorded the second worst efficiency, only ahead of Miles Bridges. But Bridges plays for the worst team in basketball, so you could adamantly claim he puts up empty stats. But since the Rockets had their best season since the James Harden era, nobody really says Green puts up empty numbers, even though it might be true. That's why Green's vanishing act in the playoffs was strange and quite unorthodox, because he's a player who wants to shoot the ball regardless of how bad his attempts are. We've seen him take some ridiculously bad shots, but the fact is, he shoots. So in the series against the Warriors, it wasn't his poor percentages that surprised us, but his complete lack of shooting in the first place. He only had 1 game where he shot more than his regular season average. That was in Game 2, where he went off for 38 points.
The pretty good go of things against the Warriors is again Jalen drives.
The other games, he only took 8 or 11 shots. Why? Why did the NBA's most trigger-happy shooting guard look invisible? Well, an experienced veteran team like the Warriors scout their opponents very well. They made Jalen Green feel uncomfortable whenever he had the ball and exposed all of his weaknesses in a single series. In particular, they put him in situations where he had to make a decision in an open space, which he's really not good at doing. Normally, he would just jack up a shot in situations like this, but he knows everything is on the line, and he can't keep hurting his team. So he gives the ball to someone else. The Warriors weren't just preventing him from scoring, they were also preventing him from getting to his favorite spots in the first place. The other issue is with the Rockets themselves. Ime Udoka is a phenomenal defensive coach, and the main catalyst in pushing the Rockets to become an elite defensive team. But offensively, he doesn't know how to handle a situation like this, similar to when he coached the Celtics in the 2022 finals, where Jason Tatum was struggling to find his shot, and Udoka made no adjustments to help him get easier looks. Now, I'm not saying Green is the same caliber of a player as Tatum, but the situation is similar. The Rockets' offense was already their weak point, so to have your leading scorer be phased out entirely, it's ludicrous. Heck, Udoka realized it too. Quote, their objective is to take him out of the series. Yet he doesn't have the tact to change up the game plan to help him out. In the long run, the Rockets are unsure if Green is part of the future or a detriment to this young squad, but having a mediocre offensive coach certainly does not help. Ty Jerome. The real most improved player of the NBA. I'm just kidding. Well, not really. Ty Jerome went from a completely unknown, unplayable bench warmer to the best player off the bench for the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. That's super impressive. However, due to a technicality, Ty Jerome wasn't eligible to win Most Improved Player, since he played 20+ minutes in only 36 games, as he needed 65 games to qualify. It's a weird criteria, considering he did average 20 minutes a game and appeared in 70 games. And the Cavs blew out so many teams that he didn't need to play in many fourth quarters.
Cavs were shifting and almost that shell defensive drill. They just made a tough shot.
Jerome got hit, he puts it up and in, and Ty Jerome has a
The playoff stakes have risen. The Cavaliers and the Pacers set to collide on the playoff stage.
Despite technically being a veteran in his 6th NBA season, this was his first real shot of securing a spot in the NBA for years to come. This was his breakout season, and his first time making the playoffs. Now, you can call it the playoff jitters, or simply a bad matchup. Jerome looked rattled, and his play fell off a cliff. Against the Indiana Pacers, after scoring 21 points in Game 1, he mysteriously disappeared for the rest of the series. In fact, he recorded 2 of the worst games ever, back-to-back. I checked Basketball Reference's database, and apparently he recorded the lowest game scores in back-to-back playoff games in history, with a negative 14.6. Then, for the rest of the series, he was too scared to even shoot anymore. Looking into it, this was a specific set of circumstances that made him look unplayable. 1, Darius Garland was injured, and Jerome was forced to take on a bigger role that he simply wasn't ready for. 2, the Pacers got some nasty defenders. Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard are feisty, aggressive, and hound him on every possession. After scoring 21 points in Game 1, Rick Carlisle made it a point of emphasis to keep a body on him at all times. 3, his lack of a first step. If you're a slow, unathletic guard, it's pretty much impossible to get past your defender if you don't have the dribbling skills or handles to back it up. For Ty Jerome, this is the first time in his career where he attracted an exorbitant amount of attention. Dudes were sticking to him like candy, and he could not do anything about it. 4, on the other end of the court, he got hunted on defense. It really tired him out as the Pacers' offense relentlessly attacked him. Coach Atkins and Donovan Mitchell both had faith that Jerome would bounce back, with Atkins stating, "He'll get it back because he's got extreme mental toughness. He's gonna go down swinging if he's going down. We're gonna keep rolling with him." Mitchell claimed, "I'm not worried about Ty Jerome. He's just not making shots right now, and that's fine. Understand that it's coming." Unfortunately, it never came. After disappearing in Games 2 and 3, Jerome's supposed mental toughness went limp, and he became shook to the core. completely invisible for the rest of the series, as he was too scared to even take shots anymore. The funny thing is, he was bound to be in for a huge payday. The biggest contract of his career was just around the corner had he not been a complete shit show against the Pacers. This single series alone might have knocked a few million off the table. Dante DiVincenzo. There's no hiding my love for the Italian stallion. But the more his career progresses, the more I think that one playoff run with the New York Knicks was the absolute pinnacle of DiVincenzo's career, and he'll never reach that level again.
Another chance here, DiVincenzo, he's got it!
On the Wolves, he had an abysmal start, and then picked it up a little bit, and then in the playoffs, he reverted back to his form at the start of the season. Just terrible. I watched every single Wolves playoff game to see how my buddies Randall and Dante were doing. And while Randall redeemed himself, I can only recall one game where DiVincenzo played well. I checked his game logs and my suspicions were correct. Out of 15 playoff games, Game 4 versus the Thunder was the only game where he played well. And that was the game where the Wolves starters all shat the bed. So his efforts were in vain. For the whole playoffs, DiVincenzo shot so poorly and looked like a shell of his former self. Now, there's a lot to consider why DiVincenzo had a hard time fitting into the Wolves, because it seems like he got a prime opportunity to run the offense from the bench. That's what he wanted, a bigger role, right? In reality, DiVincenzo was never a guy who could do that consistently. He was never even great or even average at facilitating the offense. He can barely throw an entry pass. And anytime he runs the pick and roll or leads the bench unit, it ends in a disaster. In the one game where he dominated, DiVincenzo played in the role that he excels in, catching and shooting. While DiVincenzo did not live up to his expectations, perhaps the bigger issue is with the Timberwolves roster itself. They don't have a backup point guard. Heck, Mike Conley, at nearly 40 years old, is barely a starting point guard. So DiVincenzo was pushed into a situation that did not suit his strengths. On the other hand, perhaps his run with the Knicks was a flash in the pan, as it was the only postseason where he played like a stud. After all, he is a role player and nothing more than that, but being the additional piece in the Towns trade, it's reasonable for the Wolves to expect more from him. Brook Lopez. Remember when Brook Lopez was considered the ideal 3-and-D center? Heck, I used to watch him on the Nets in person back when he wasn't good at shooting threes or playing D. His transformation as a player is remarkable, as he adapted in a changing NBA landscape. Recently, he became the first player in history to hit 1,000 total threes and block over 2,000 shots for his career, an accomplishment that defines the modern NBA center. Even in the 2024-25 campaign, at the age of 36, it seemed like Lopez was still chugging along, still playing over 30 minutes a game, still blocking 2 shots a game, and still hitting threes. But when the playoffs started and the Bucks matched up against the Pacers yet again, with Lillard's injury, Lopez was expected to increase his offensive load, much like the year before. This time, however, something seemed off. His minutes dropped significantly from 32 minutes a game to 15, and by Game 5, he lost his starting spot to Bobby Portis. As the Bucks got finished off in 5 games, Lopez was seen on the bench, completely dejected. At first, you figured he suffered some kind of injury. I mean, the Bucks are known for getting injured at the worst possible time, but there was nothing on the injury report on Lopez. What really happened was Lopez looked lethargic and couldn't defend anyone. Take a look at this. In the 74 minutes that Lopez was on the court, the Bucks had a putrid net rating of -17, with their drop-off in defense being very alarming. Whenever Tyrese Halliburton initiated the offense, the first thing he'd do is call for a switch to get Lopez onto him. Then he abused him, either scoring or creating a wide-open shot for his teammate. You know, he never defended the perimeter with exceptional tact, even in his prime, but you combine his age with his slowing foot speed, it culminated in the worst playoff series of his life. To say he vanished is an understatement. Doc Rivers should have gave him 0 minutes and benched him far sooner than he did. At least he realized he was useless, just a bit too late, Doc. All that's left is a lumbering big man, desperately hanging on to his career by a single thread. And those were 5 NBA studs who vanished all of a sudden and strangely. It was arguably the worst showing they've ever had in their entire careers, to the point where it makes you wonder, are they even still good? Is their future in the NBA in jeopardy? Let me know if you can think of any others who strangely vanished out of nowhere. Thank you all so much for watching, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.